there, welcome to the Agile Arcade. My name is Andy Ching, and as I will say at the beginning of most of these videos, if your process or your Jira setup is more theatre than delivery, then you are in the right place. We're going to be talking to you about lots of Agile things and process and software delivery, and there will be a definite Atlassian flavour to it. As an Atlassian administrator for the last 15 years, I want to talk about how we can deliver software and make good use of the tools that we're given, and those tools are quite often the Atlassian tools, so Jira and Confluence in particular. So that's what I want to be talking to you about, and today is no exception. Today we're going to be talking about Jira itself. So if you're just about to start out on your Jira journey, you can check out my other video where I talk about whether choosing Jira is the right decision for you. So you can go and have a look at that, and I'll weigh up some of the pros and cons. It's not an exhaustive list, but will hopefully help you to make a decision about whether it's right for you, depending on the size of your team and what you want to do. If you've decided, you know what, I've heard about this Jira thing, lots of people are using it, I want to get it into my organization, but I'm really not sure where to start with it, I've never used the tool before, then stay tuned for this video. What we're going to be doing today is very simple. Atlassian make this very, very easy, so you can just step through it. You don't necessarily need me to tell you, but if you just want a little bit of guidance, if you want some ideas and thoughts about how you can get started with Jira and have a little bit of a tour around, then this is what I'm going to be doing in this video. So things we're going to be covering today is how you can go about doing the initial setup. So we'll talk a little bit about the plans that they've got, and we'll also be stepping in and setting up our Jira site. We'll save Confluence for another day. When we get into Jira, we will also then be talking about how to get yourself set up with a space, previously known as a project. And I'll give you a little bit of a tour of the product as well, just to show you where you can find things and just get yourself started. We will be doing some more videos later on to get more into the detail of customization, anatomy of a space / project, and we'll be talking about things like setting up workflows and all of those kind of things later on. But today, we're going to keep it nice and simple. Versions, Jira setup, installation, project creation, / space creation. I'll tell you more about that later, and a little bit of a tour of the product. So let's dive in straight away with that. I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's go and get ourselves set up with Jira. So let's have a look at getting ourselves set up with Jira. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get to the Atlassian.com website. And before we dive into getting Jira set up, I just want to talk to you about some of the options that we have in terms of different versions of Jira. Now, this is quite a good way of finding out what sort of size team you've got and how much you think it's going to cost. So if you're saying, for instance, I've got 200 users, you can see the breaks changing there. So if I've got 100 users, or if I've got 1,000 users, so we got 685 for standard, 1105 for premium. So the more users you have, the better the break. But obviously, as I mentioned in my previous video, Jira starts to get expensive when you add things like when you put add-ons on from the marketplace, because they will be charged at the same rate. So if you put 1,000 users in, and then you have something that costs, I don't know, $1 for a particular add-on, you will pay $1,000 a month because you've got 1,000 users in your system. So it doesn't really matter too much. You know, basically you're going to pay more. The more add-ons you have, the more you're going to pay per user. So just keep an eye on that. Keep that simple. Obviously, you can use the free version, and that's what we're going to be doing. And that will allow you to use the product for free for up to 10 users for forever. Now, when you first install Jira, it will default you to a 30-day plan and for premium. And now, premium has a lot of benefits. There are a lot of benefits to it. One of the nice things about premium is the ability to be able to do things like use the advanced roadmaps tool or set hierarchies up in your system. You've got a better level of support. You have more automations. We'll talk about automations in another day. So if you're a bigger team and you're looking to do a lot more with Jira, you might want to consider the premium setup. Standard is pretty much the same as what you get in free, give or take. You get more automations, more storage, all of those kind of things. But obviously, essentially free is enough. You've got enough of what you need for 10 users. Once you get over 10 users, you'll move on to the standard pricing plan and you'll get the benefits of your standard pricing plan. And when you look at the pricing, you can see down here all the different sorts of things that you get. And you get a heck of a lot in the free one. And one thing to bear in mind as well is if you are a registered charity, you certainly always used to be able to, and I'm pretty sure you still can, you can apply for access to Atlassian products for free. And certainly when I worked for a charity, it's quite a long time ago now, but when I worked for a charity, I got pretty much all of the products and it didn't cost us anything. But please do just double check that as well. Now it talks about support from the Atlassian community versus 9.5 regional support or 24/7 support for premium. The support from the Atlassian community is absolutely fantastic. It's a fantastic community. There are lots of people in there with lots of ideas and thoughts, so you can get a lot before you need to reach out and get support from something more formal. Obviously, if you've got more than 10 users, you'll be able to get that during the day support from Atlassian directly. Okay, so there you go. That is the pricing. So if we go now to if we go back to the Atlassian homepage, and then we go to products and see all apps, we'll now be able to go and get ourselves set up with Jira. So let's get on and do that. Okay, so in terms of what we're picking, well, we're just going to pick vanilla Jira. There are quite a lot of products that they do nowadays, and it can be a little bit daunting. Over the years, Atlassian have added products and they've taken products away. If you're interested in something quite simple for tracking work, Trello is a really, really good shout. So if you want to do something personal, just sort of personal to-do lists with some lanes and those kind of things, you can't go far wrong with Trello. Jira is definitely the more complex tool, and ultimately this is really what you want if you want things like, you know, really much more complex workflows and those kind of things. Certainly down the line, then Jira is going to be for you. But that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're not going to be talking about service management or product discovery. We'll save those again for another day, and we're not going to be talking about Confluence today either. And again, we'll talk about that on another video. So we're going to click Try Cloud, and that's now going to give us the ability to set up a new site. You can see I've got two here already. So we're going to say Agile Arcade Training Demo. Okay, so we're going to join them. Remember what I mentioned before about the fact that you're going to have a 30-day premium trial. So there will be a lot of features in here. I strongly suggest that if you're not looking to go to premium, that you turn the premium service off, because otherwise you'll find that you'll start using things that you got and get used to them and get attached to them, which of course is what Atlassian want you to do, and then in 30 days you'll end up having to pay premium because you're using all of the stuff in there. So you might set yourself a hierarchy up, you might start using advanced roadmaps, those kind of things. Okay, so it's going to just take a few moments to get ready. This is going to ask us to set up our first space. Now this is something that you don't need to be desperately worried about getting right from the outset. So we can come back and we can set new spaces up, and we can change what we've got and change our boards and all of those kind of things. But if you have a good idea about how your project team is set up, then you can absolutely come in here and pick the right thing. So if you've got a Kanban team or a Scrum team, obviously you're going to pick Kanban or Scrum. Or if you're looking to do more project management focused work, you can pick project management. But don't sweat over this. It's not the end of the world if you pick the wrong thing. So we're going to pick Scrum. It's now going to talk to us about setting up what is called a space. Now, for those of you who have used Jira before, I imagine that you probably haven't if you're watching this video, but if you have, you may have heard people refer to projects within Jira. Now, project is quite a loaded term. It suggests that there's a beginning and an end, and therefore it's a project. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Space is a bit more generic. It fits much more in with the terminology that's used in Confluence. In Confluence, you have a space, and that space is maybe a department, or you can have your own personal space, or it might be a particular project or a product or whatever it happens to be, a group. It's a way of grouping things together that are related to each other. In Jira, they've now taken that same terminology, so you now have a space. After 15 years of using this product, it is a bit of a struggle for me to move away from that terminology, so I apologize if I interchangeably use the word space and project together. But I think it's a good thing that Atlassian have done this. I think, like I said, project is a loaded term. It suggests there's a beginning and an end. A space does lend itself much more to how Jira is actually used. So in a lot of companies that I've worked for, you'll see that a space, or what was previously known as a project, for all sorts of things. It could be a team, it could be an actual project, it could be a particular product that you're looking after. It could be an intake, it could be a function, it could be all sorts of things. But we say, okay, we're going to use it for our team. So that is the most common use of it I've seen, is that a team has a space, they have a number of products that they manage in it. And you can see here from the examples that sort of alludes to that idea. My software team, Team Astro, front-end dev, QA testing, bug tracking. So that sort of cross-slice of different things that you could use a space for. We're going to pick Team Astro and we're going to get started. Now here it's going to ask us what sort of things do we want in our project. Now again, this is not something you need to sweat about. If you're thinking, do you know what, I don't know if I need a request yet or not, you can choose to include it and then remove it later, or if you don't use it, or you can choose to add it later on if you want to. You're not, and you can see here it says, don't worry, you can change these later. So don't fret about it. Just pick what you think you're going to need. So we're going to add bug into that list as well, and we're going to hit next. Same with statuses. This is again the same sort of thing. Better to have fewer statuses and then add statuses later rather than remove them or change them later on, because then you'll have to migrate the data. So if you say, for instance, we say we're going to have in progress in here, and then later on we decide we don't want that step, or we want to call it something else, or we want a different step, then we're going to have to migrate all of the issues across to that new status. So it's better to have a good idea about what you want. But again, it's not the end of the world if you pick the wrong thing. I'm going to add an extra status here just to demonstrate, and we're going to call it on hold. Okay, and you can see here how it's going to appear in our list. We can choose where we want it to appear later on, but again, as it says here, don't worry, you can change these later. Okay, we can now send an invite out to members of our team if we've got members of the team that we want to add. There isn't anybody that I want to add at the moment. This is just my own personal Jira, and I don't really have any friends to add to it at the moment, sad times. Okay, so we're going to do this later. Okay, this is going to take us now into our newly created space, and I'm going to give you a bit of a tour around the product and show you where you can find everything. Okay, so now we're into Jira, and I've got this in dark mode here. Now, there's a few things that we need to do to start with, and we've already got our first space created, so we'll talk about creating a new space in a moment. All of the navigation that you've got is on the left-hand side here, and we can also have a look at some of the other things in here. So we've got some of our apps, if we've got some plans, filters, which are an incredibly powerful part of Jira and drive a lot of Jira. And it uses something called JQL, which is the Jira querying language, to underpin that. And I will be doing a JQL primer in a future video just to kind of get you started with that. I strongly encourage you to learn JQL. It's not hard at all, but it is incredibly powerful, and it really does open up Jira and allow you to do a lot more with it. So those are the basic sort of options that we've got on the left hand side. Dashboards are also really, really useful, and they are driven by filters. So there's not much to show you without building filters and showing you JQL. There's not a lot we can do with the dashboards. There's a few things, and you can have a poke around with those. And again, we'll talk about dashboarding and reporting in a future video. Okay, so first thing we're going to need to do then, so we're going to go up to the right hand side here. Now, obviously we've created this site, so we're the administrator of this site. And what we're going to do is we are going to go to the billing app like this, and we're going to turn off the premium service. So it's the this one here. So Agile Academy training demo.atlassian.net, and you can see here that it's under premium. There's one user in there at the moment, and it's going to charge me $18.30 on the 26th of March. We don't want it to do that. So we're just going to click manage. And we are then going to change our plan. And you can see here the different plans that we've got. So we could go straight in for standard. There's not a huge amount of benefit of going for standard whilst you've got less than 10 users, other than the fact you get Rovo Search, which is basically an AI search tool, which is quite powerful. And we'll be talking about that in the future. But you've got more automations, which you won't really need if you've only got 10 users anyway. We've got more flexibility around our user setup as well. Obviously, it says unlimited users. That's a bit of a cheek because everything's unlimited once you're paying for it. It's $9 per user, and obviously as we add more users, we'll also get more. We'll get more price breaks with those users as well. So there really isn't much use in having standard at the moment for most people, certainly when you're getting started. And you can have a look down here at that feature list again, which we saw on the pricing page here, and it'll tell you all of the things that you've got. Like I said, the Rovo AI thing is probably the most useful feature on the standards tool, and that could be something that you want to use. But at the moment, we've got no data in here, so the Rovo tool isn't really going to give you much benefit at all. So we're going to downgrade to free. What you don't want to do is cancel your subscription, because that will actually delete your site. So if we click on there, so we're just going to say we're evaluating it. And we're going to click close. So we're now on the free plan. So we're all good to go from that point of view. So let's go back to Jira. So it is here. And you can see here that I've got my Team Astro space that I mentioned before. Now, within that, basically, you're going to be coming here and you're going to be coming to the spaces area pretty much all of the time. But before we dive into our space, and I'll show you some of the things in here, there is sort of some additional navigation at the top here. So we've got Confluence set up, and Jira, we've got different sites. We can go to our different sites. It still says projects here, actually. I'm not sure if that's correct. And obviously our administration. So we've got this sort of top bar menu here that we can get to most things at a high level from. We've also got our administration over here. Now, this is probably something you're not going to want to dive too much into at the moment, but if you go to work items, this is where you will see things like your workflows, your field configurations, priorities, schemes, all of those kind of things are in there as well. So I'm going to click back. There is you saw at the top there, Atlassian are introducing some limits to schemes going forward, and I think this is largely because some Jira instances get very cumbersome, so that's going to be a big problem for people actually going forward. I suspect a lot of people have got a lot of schemes in larger organisations that's going to start to get capped by Atlassian as they try and get people to rein in their administration a little bit. Okay, so just going to go through a few little extra bits of navigation for you, and then we'll call it there. So you are pretty much ready to go at this point. Now on this screen here, we can create our first issue. So we want to create our first issue. We've got a new task if we want it. We can select, we're going to say we're going to create a story, and we can set up our story here, and we can give it a little description. And we can assign it to me if I want to. There we go. Because I'm the only one in here. I can set a priority. We haven't got any parents to link it to at the moment. We can give it a due date if we want to. We can set labels, lots of things in here. And these are all standard default out of the box fields for the issue type of story. If we click create another, what that will do is it will just sort of partly populate this form again. And then you just fill in the sort of things that are likely to change. So for instance, we click create another, it'll allow us to type in a new summary and a new description, but it will keep a lot of the other stuff the same, such as the fact that it's a story. There we go. Okay, so that should now appear on our list. So that isn't appearing on our list for some reason. It's because it's not in a sprint, I think. So if we go to backlog, there we go. Oh no, it's still not appearing. Why is it not appearing? Stand by. Okay, so we've added our Scrum 5 to the little dialog box down there. Basically said that the filters for this board here, our issue type that we created, our issue that needed to be created needed to appear within a sprint. So I've added it to the sprint. So you can just, on the little dialog box that pops up at the bottom, you could just click add to sprint, refresh the page, and there it is appearing. So I'll just show you that again, just so you understand what I did. So if we create another one, so let's call it story 2. Story 2. And we're going to assign it to me again. Create. And you'll notice it's appeared here, look, in the backlog. So what I hadn't done last time was refresh, and I went to the backlog. So on our board, basically, this is our current sprint. So we've got a sprint here, this is our current sprint. So it's not going to appear in there because it's not currently in scope of that sprint. So if we go to our backlog, you can see that it is down here. So you might need to hit the refresh once you've added that issue. And what I can do to add that to the sprint if I want to is I can just drag and drop that into a sprint, or I can pop it into the current sprint if I'd like to as well. And it will give me a warning to say that the sprint scope's been affected. This is a live sprint, so it started this sprint automatically when I created this space. And so obviously if I add something to this, it is going to adjust the scope of that sprint. That's fine. So we're going to say OK for that. And it's going to add that for us. Equally, we can remove things from the sprint as well. It'll give us the same warning. So what you're looking at across the top here then, and we're sort of leading into this now, is we've got our summary, which gives us just a high level view of what's going on within our project. So we want to come in here and we want to have a look at the breakdown of the work that we've got. If we want to have a look at our priority breakdown, so if we've got a lot of high priority things in here, we'll see that all in here. We've got our backlog where we can do our planning. So if we want to create a new sprint, for instance, we can absolutely do that. And we can, if we want to, we can create issues from within there as well if we want to. And let me just click off that there. We can move our issue types around. We can also manage our different filters in there, and we can also create new sprints. So if we go over to here, we can create another sprint, create another sprint if we want to. And what it will do is it will also incrementally add to those as well. So we can say, let's pop that one into sprint 5. Oops. Actually, no, let's bring that one down. Let's pop that in sprint 3. Let's pop that one there. That's in sprint 2, and so on and so forth. So we can very quickly start to organize. Now you think about this, we created this space. We said we created a Scrum space, and we've already got an active sprint. We've already got some tickets that have been created. We can create the tickets in here, or we can create them using the create dialog up the top there, and we can start to plan and move those around in the sprints already. So straight away, we've got a very, very simple setup to Jira, and we're able to get going. If we click on one of these links here on the right-hand side, we can also get the detail for this piece of work. We can edit the detail. We can adjust the priority, all of the things that we saw on that original dialogue as well. And we can also do things like add some comments as well. So we can say, I need more information before I can start. Okay, there we go. So I've had a little comment in there now. So it may be that I'm going to struggle to move that to the next step until I've had some more information. Up the top here, we've got our statuses, and we can also have a look at our workflow. So it will give you a visual representation of workflow, and we'll talk about workflows in detail later. But at the moment, we've got a very simple workflow based on those steps that we mentioned before. And you can see here that it just says any. And what that means is that we can get to any of these steps from anywhere in the process. So we can go straight to done. We can come back to in progress. We can go to on hold, whatever we want to do. We can get from anywhere to anywhere. As you get more confident with workflows, you can start to have actual workflow steps where you say, actually, to go from to do, I can only go from to do to in progress. I can't go from to do to in review. I can go straight to done or closed, because I might want to close it off and give it a resolution and say we didn't do the work. So you can start to build in workflow, and you can build in rules into that workflow as well. So you can say I can only go to in progress if I've got an estimate populated or there's an assignee attached to the work. All of that we will talk about. I think if you're just starting out with Jira at the moment, I would not be worried too much about any of this. If you really are, you can of course hit the edit workflow and start to adjust that as well if you want to. Okay, so that is it. So we're pretty much good to go now. We've got our Jira space set up, our first space. If we want to create another space, we can absolutely do that. So we come up to space here, and we've got a lot more options available now than what we had when we installed. And this is why I was telling you that you don't need to get too worried about what you set from the beginning. You might just come in, set that initial space up. You may decide you don't want to use it and that you want to go and have a look at some other different sorts of things. But you can see down here on the left-hand side, all sorts of templates. Some will be available in this standard version, some will not be, but you can absolutely decide what you want to do. You can even have some personal ones in here, so you can have a blank one, a project management space, a task tracking space, a personal task planner, whatever you like. Human resources, marketing, product management, whatever you like, it's all in here. And you'll notice actually for some of them you see here that you need Jira Project Discovery to be able to use those particular ones. So we can go and ahead and create a new space. Now we've also got our board. So we mentioned that we've got our board for our active sprint. Once we've finished with that, we can complete the sprint if we choose to, and then we can go and get some sprint details as well. If we've got our GitHub setup or any other tool for catching code. So Bitbucket, for instance, if that's set up, we can link our code and we can see that in there as well. We can build out a timeline, and if we've got Confluence, we can set up our pages as well. So there's lots of flexibility here, but to start with, you're just going to want these 3 tabs here: Summary, Backlog, and Board. That's probably all you're going to need to get yourself started. You can start to build your issues into your backlog, and then start to drag those and plan those into your sprint. Once the sprint is finished, you can click Complete Sprint, and then you can just start the next one. So it's as simple as that, and you can just start getting on with your work immediately. The only other thing probably just to show you is in the spaces area, if we go to these little ellipses here, we can also go ahead and make some additional changes to our spaces if we choose to. So if we go to space settings, we've got some things in here that we can do. We can set access, project access up, notifications, look at our custom fields, all of those sorts of things as well. Nice and straightforward. We can also set a category, so we can manage our categories as well. So say, for instance, we've got different product categories, or we've got different space styles. So we might say this is a functional one, this is a project one, whatever we want to do, we can absolutely do that in there as well. So there you go. That is everything I wanted to show you today. So hopefully that gives you enough just to get started with Jira, helps you get installed and helps you get moving with your first project. Ultimately, see, I said I would use it interchangeably, didn't I? Your first space, you can absolutely start planning your work in here really quickly, and that's what Atlassian have really tried to build into their self-serve setup. That it's just very simple to set up. Obviously, remember to go remove that premium service unless you want to be paying $18 a month. You'll see more options in here that you might find you suddenly started using. So just be wary of that. If there are things in there and you're happy to pay $18 a month, great. Then that's fine, but otherwise please go and make sure that you go to your billing and just remove the just put yourself onto the free plan, at least to start with, whilst you're evaluating. That is it. Hopefully that was really useful for you. I know there's lots of guidance out there for Jira. Please go and take a look at some of the other guidance as well. There's some fantastic sites and a great support community out there to help as well. If there's anything you'd like me to have a look at, please do pop it in the comments. If there's something in particular that's really gnarly for you that you'd like me to talk through, and please let me know. I can't promise I'll be able to get to all of it, but please do let me know, and we'll try and get to it. Like I said before, and I'm also going to be talking about Confluence. I want to be talking about workflows in here, some of the schemes and some of the setups as well. So all of that we'll talk about in some future videos. There's loads and loads of topics, and of course we will be talking about Agile. That was kind of the purpose of this channel, was to talk about Agile software development. So we're going to be talking about that, and we'll be talking about that in relation to Atlassian tools as well, but it doesn't have to be necessarily rooted in Jira or anything Atlassian. So stay tuned for all of those things. We've got all of that coming up. I'm super excited to get started with this channel. Please do hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy these videos. Hit that bell icon if you want some notifications on when my videos are dropping. My aim is to do these every Wednesday at 6 PM UK time, so I will try and stick to that, as I have done on my sister channel, Pieces of 8-Bit. I've always managed to drop a video every Friday for the last couple of years, so hopefully we can still do the same. And by the way, if you're into retro gaming, please do go check out Pieces of 8-Bit, yeah, take a break from the daily grind and go and have a look at that, and I talk about all sorts of things on there as well. So I'm going to stop rambling now. That is it for today. So until the next video, please do all take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one, which I'll be dropping very soon. Until then, bye for now.